Now, what can I tell you about this next item, except that, well, it's about budgerigars. Now, you may not think very much of budgies, but an awful lot of people do. And apparently feathers have begun to fly. Bernard Falk reports.
Come on my finger. Come, that's a clever girl. You got a kiss? Kiss, Mummy.
This is Mum. My mum.
There's a clever girl.
And apart from the human members of her family, Twinkie and Beauty play an important part in her life.
You're naughty. You won't do anything, will you? Now you sit nicely. There you are. Now
Mum
that's
is
a
one of more than 1.5
clever
million
little
people in
Good.
Britain who own a budgerigar. And like most of them, Mum's budgies offer her daily companionship and are treated as beloved household pets.
What's this? Look. What's this?
There are those, however, for whom a budgerigar is far more than a mere pet. Men and women who have turned a budgie into a business and indeed an obsession which dominates their entire lives. Now, of all Britain's budgerigar owners, about 15,000 people breed them and compete with each other fiercely to produce, both in size, physique and in colour, a budgerigar which achieves near perfection. That is why recent events have ruffled the sensitivities of Britain's budgerigar experts and threatened to split the budgie world in two.
The battleground in the growing conflict between top breeders of British budgies reveals a power struggle over how the birds are exhibited. This is the World Budgerigar Championship held at Leeds in the northern heartland of the sport. And since 1925, the British Budgerigar Society, who sponsor the event, have jealously guarded its status as the blue ribbon of worldwide budgie keeping. Yet this year, for the first time in British budgie history, a rival show in the pampered South threatens the power of the Society's prestigious position. Sponsored by a magazine, Budgerigar World, with money to make a video of it, the show has thrown the entire budgie industry into such a flutter that two rival factions are now at each other's claws. Operating from his detached home in the leafy suburban climes of Virginia Water in Surrey, Gerald Binks is co-founder of the magazine Budgerigar World. He created the rival show, staged it a week before the Society's championship, and offered 10 times the money in prizes.
We are in it to improve the hobby, and indeed, in my view, and in the view of many people in the fancy, we have been desperate for the past 20 years at least for quality to be brought into the hobby.
Well, my personal view is this, that we haven't a rival show. This show is the crux of the budgerigar world, and there'll never be a rival show to this one.
Such confidence has led many budgie fanciers like Bob Wilson to believe the Society is autocratic, and in his case that they're colour prejudice against a budgie he's bred. Bob lives in a mobile home off Parrot Way in Bridgewater and claims to have bred the world's first pink budgie, which if true would make him a wealthy man. So enter the Budgerigar Society, in the shape of Baz Jocelyn of the Colour Standards Committee, Carl Fulgoni, a former president, who are here to inspect one budgie and to decide if it's pink or not.
The point surely is that it isn't really pink, is it? I mean, it's white with bits of pink.
It's white with a pink suffusion, which is the closest anyone's ever got to a pink budgie.
But it isn't a pink budgie.
Well, it isn't. I don't call it a pink budgie. I call it a red-eye white with a pink suffusion.
I rather suspect that if I covered my hands with red ink, let them partially dry, and held a white budgerigar and let it run through my hand, the sweat of my hand would release sufficient red to give a wash similar to that. I'll be perfectly honest.
Do you want to hold the bird?
I'd like to, if I may, have a look under one or two of those top feathers.
So you think that it is possible to
It's
nobble
possible.
a bird, is it?
Yes. It is possible.
Be very careful it doesn't fly off, Mr. Wilson.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Oh, my word, don't they bite. Carl?
Yeah.
There's no pink underneath.
It's purely on the top, this white is, there's nothing
Purely
on the
on the
feathers.
top, there's nothing underneath.
Just on the feathers, you see. It's
Nothing underneath at all.
personally, I wouldn't accept it as a pink budgie. I'm sorry.
Not a pink budgie.
I wouldn't accept it as a pink budgie.
The society's power to determine if a bird is pink or merely strayed by chance into a streak of paint has only helped to fuel the seeds of conflict. A little glamour and commercialism is attracting those who are used to being in the spotlight. Champion shot putter Geoff Capes is a budgie fancier who doesn't mind his hobby and obsession being put on a professional footing.
Jesus, you don't have to make the difference, mate. And I think you're right, Puffy. You know, I mean, you know, here comes Budgie. That's the first thing. You know, they call me Budgie, nickname type thing.
Capes, like thousands of other breeders up and down the country, is anxiously awaiting the outcome of the struggle and has already taken sides.
I would say, fortunately, there is an opposing section now, the budgerigar world, which could do the hobby a lot of good. It gives a lot more money, it's a little bit more razzmatazz about it, and I think there are one or two fuddy-duddies in the BS that have got to get to grips with themselves and the new ideas and accept them. I mean, we have to accept new ideas or else we wouldn't progress as a race, let's face it.
It is unlikely that the budgie industry will resist the pressures of the modern world. Like Wimbledon, honour for an amateur champion may not be enough. Budgies are in the money, and once that happens, perhaps lost forever, will be the joy of breeding a budgie just for the thrill of it all.